Hello and welcome back to the People Analytics Podcast. As always, I'm the host, Sean Boyce, CEO and founder of Staffgeek. I'd like to welcome my guest to the show today, Dan Taylor from 15Five. Dan is the partner manager over at 15Five. Hello, Dan. How are you? And thanks for being on the show.
Hey, Sean. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be here.
Yeah, really excited to talk about our topic for today. But before we get into that, if you could give for our listeners more information about your background and how you became the partner manager at 15Five.
Sure. So I have had, quite a few different jobs throughout my career, but I kind of, after my MBA, I was getting more into the world of marketing and getting involved with sales, and I was able to get on board with the partnerships team at Bamboo HR. And for a few years there, I worked on the referral partnership program. Was able to participate in that program. Great team, great product. And, after a few years, opportunity came up with 15Five to similarly work on the partnerships team here at 15Five. And I did some research. I found it to be a really great company and a great opportunity to start something new. And so this is where I have been. And it's just been a great experience. Company really believes in its purpose, lives its values, treats their employees well, and it's a product that's making a lot of difference in people's lives, helping people be more engaged. So I'm pretty excited, and I feel lucky to be a part of this company and be in the role that I'm playing.
It's always excellent to hear, especially coming from a company like Staffgeek, who holds culture and the atmosphere that you create where you work in very high regard. So thank you for sharing that. For our listeners as well, too, if you could give them a little bit more information in terms of what 15Five is.
Yeah. So 15Five, we are a software platform, and we're focused on what we call continuous performance management. And so the idea is we're trying to help companies move away from the old style of performance management where, maybe you set some goals at the start of the year and then review them at the end of the year, but there's not a lot of engagement throughout the year. What 15Five enables companies to do is be checking in frequently, be responding to new changes that are going on, allowing employees to focus on their goals on a weekly or even daily basis, and be in easy, consistent communication with their managers, with their peers, express gratitude, be able to make quick pivots. And the way that we really do it is we have what's called the 15Five. It's a weekly check-in. And the idea is that it takes about 15 minutes for an employee to fill in what's almost like an online checklist where they get to talk about how they're feeling at work, the things that they're focusing on, any stumbling blocks that may be in their way, anywhere that they might need assistance, talk about things that are going really well, and any other questions that the company may want to check in on. It's all very customizable. And then the manager would spend about 5 minutes reviewing this per week. And through this easy, consistent communication, people are able to stay in contact. They're able to really get that deeper engagement, which leads to higher performance. And a nice thing about the check-in is that it's integrated with all of the features we offer. So 360 reviews are incorporated with our software. A framework for one-on-one conversations is incorporated where you're able to set talking points, set follow-up items, and really make the most of a one-on-one conversation. We have engagement survey capability. We've got the ability to request feedback live so that you're able to find pointers to build upon, to make improvements. And it removes the awkwardness of, trying to start these conversations. A lot of our customers have expressed to us that 15Five has made it easy for them to talk about things that may never have come up, and it allows employees to be heard and have their voice heard. So it's it's really been a super positive thing for the companies that have decided to use 15Five.
It sounds like I like the continuous aspect of thinking about performance management, thinking back, years ago when I was working in corporate or bigger companies or wherever, and the performance management, how it was handled was it was very static in terms of it happens like maybe once a year or rather infrequently, which always felt more like going through the motions than I was really getting a whole lot of value out of it as an individual contributor and even my manager to some extent as well also. So it's been very interesting to see the industry continue to develop in this direction of leveling up what we previously considered to be performance management. So it'd be great to hear you talk a little bit about, the customers and the clients that you have in terms of how they've been doing it previously, like what the old school approach was like, and then how continuous performance management is different from that, and like why you would want to consider, basically the advantages of switching from a more of a old school approach to being more continuous with your performance management.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And I think your experience is similar to a lot of people's where, it did feel a little bit static and maybe a little bit disjointed from daily life, performance reviews and engagement and things like that. Just to share a couple examples here, one of our customers, Credit Karma, may be familiar with that company. They have talked about how prior to using 15Five, they brought on a new, chief HR officer. And when she got there, she found there was just a real lack of employee feedback. The messages that employees had were not making their way up to management. They typically were kind of feeling like the bonus system that they had in place was going to be the main motivation for their employees. But as they got more into the weeds and this new HR officer spoke with employees in one-on-one conversations, tried to discover, what was really needed. She found that they needed kind of a way to have their voice heard, and they implemented 15Five, and they found that employees were really they were motivated more when they were fully engaged, and they felt like they were a valued member of the team. They felt like they had clarity on goals, they had direction, they had clear channels of communication. And that's really what 15Five offered for this team, was a regular cadence for their communication. So they knew that once a week they were going to have their check-ins, they were going to have their one-on-ones scheduled, they had their 360 reviews on the calendar. And so with this cadence of communication, it opened up the channels so that they were able to really have their voice heard, have their needs met, get more engaged, and it led to more productivity for the company overall. So pretty cool example there. Another one that I wanted to mention was one of our customers, Envato, and that's kind of a marketplace for artistic items and in a way for creators to get their material out there. And they were operating on the old set it and forget it with their goals. So really just they weren't a part of the daily life. 15Five, once they put that in place, they knew that they were going to be checking in on those every week. So it kind of brought accountability for their team. And when you have that in your head, like, okay, I'm going to need to talk about this. I'm going to need to talk about, where I'm at on my goals and how I've been working on them, how I've been focusing on them. It increased productivity. It increased engagement with goals. And it also increased recognition, because they felt like when they achieved their goals, when they achieved the things that they were trying to do, they also got recognition, and they were it was known that they are doing a great job and that they're putting in the time, putting in the work. So it really was a way for them to connect and to coach. And so with that in place, 15Five provided them not only with productivity, but also with clarity. And kind of what I talked about earlier, it brings up a few conversations that weren't happening previously, and it did it in a natural way where people had the right avenue.
It's amazing what can happen when you give people a voice, right? And you learn a little bit more about what's going on in the day to day, and you get an opportunity to kind of collaborate and share those ideas. It sounds like 15Five has been a pretty good platform for facilitating that. You mentioned a couple of things, accountability, and then in particular, what I'm curious to learn a little bit more about in terms of how you do it, because I'm sure listeners have questions about that too. The measuring the improvement or the boosts to both productivity and engagement. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm interested in terms of like how you measure that for people that are using the platform, and some of those results there as well too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's cool with 15Five. You've got the ability to pull reporting, so you can see how many goals are being met. You can measure that individually at your company, and you can see, are our goals realistic? Are we hitting them? Is it an issue of motivation? You've also got full climate surveys where you go in there and you can find where there's areas that maybe you need to put more focus on. You can get the sense of the company overall. And then in the end, there's some flexibility to really let each individual company kind of decide what are going to be the metrics that you're going to measure your productivity with. In some of our studies, that we've worked with, because we are very into the science behind this and trying to find what really works. We've partnered with some groups that have found that companies that are highly engaged experience a 21% boost in productivity, a 37% drop in absenteeism, meaning people taking vacation without days off, and a reduction of, a 40% improvement in employee turnover. So obviously those are areas that are very measurable for each company. Just looking at how's the bottom line doing? How are your employees showing up? And with the turnover, the amount of time and energy that you save not having to bring on board new employees can really add up. And of course, losing institutional knowledge with employees who are moving on obviously is going to hinder performance. So those are some of the ways that we've really seen companies improve through this jump in engagement.
That's great. Yeah, the science helps in a big way as well too for those that want to know where these concepts come from, and what is it grounded in. How can I start thinking about how it works and how it might apply to me? I think that is helpful context as well too. So I'd be curious to hear a little bit more in terms of the science behind it, and how it relates to, I think, commonly being talked about, especially today, is the 360 approach to performance management. So if you could give just a brief description of what's meant by that and how that's different than, I guess, the traditional performance management, how you would think about it. But then, from there, how does continuous performance management take that to another level? Because that's what it seems like to me.
Yeah. Happy to comment on that. And for those who are really, they want to dive into the science and learn more about it, then you can learn from me, because I'm obviously not a scientist. I'd encourage you to check out 15Five's website, and there's kind of in-depth studies and documentation of the science that's gone into it. But to give the high level, the field of positive psychology is really where we base our partnerships and our research, and that's something that's come out of universities like UPenn, University of Michigan, Cal Berkeley, and we do have a team of PhDs in-house here that work in this field, and the idea is helping people to feel that gratitude in their work, and to be able to really engage on a level that's going to increase productivity. And so we find that leads into the idea of the continuous performance management that we've talked about. quite a bit already. Just having people stay up to date, have these open communication channels, have an idea that there's psychological safety is another concept that we talk about a lot, where they feel like they have the permission to discuss maybe stumbling blocks at work or areas that need to be addressed. Have the types of conversations that are going to make a difference, because obviously when people don't feel like there's psychological safety to discuss the important matters, then they're not going to bring them up, and that's going to lead to disengagement. So yeah, that's a kind of a quick overview of the science there. But it's really interesting to see that in place, and to see when people do have this feeling that they can be recognized for their work, they can have psychological safety in their work, they can have avenues to get things done, then it really does change the way people do their work at the foundational level, and leads to better productivity. To answer the second part of your question, talking about the difference between the 360 reviews and maybe old style of reviews. 360 in 15.5 allows you to get feedback from people at all different angles. So you got feedback coming from a manager, feedback coming from peers and people on the same level, feedback coming from people who report up to you. So if you think of it as a 360-degree circle, the feedback's coming from all different angles. So it's great because it gives a clearer picture of how an employee is doing. And you may find even some interesting areas where there's conflicting data, like maybe an employee feels that they have a great strength in one area, but then those that report up to this employee feel that that's not a strength. And so then you can kind of understand, okay, why is there a mix match here? Is this an area that we need to focus on? Or is there an area that everybody agrees that is a weakness, or everybody agrees is a strength? So it helps paint the better picture, and it helps people, I think, feel that the assessment is more fair rather than it just coming from the top down. So that's, I think, a big advantage of the 360 feedback. And, tool like 15.5 makes it very easy just through automation and organization and having that all in one tool and integrated in with weekly check-ins is nice in a sense, because let's say you're asked to give a bit of feedback about a manager or an employee, and you are just all you can remember is the last interaction when you had with that person. With 15.5, you've got the whole year's worth of data of how this person's been doing on their goals, how they've been doing on their priorities, past projects, past check-ins. So it allows you to eliminate some of that recency bias and give a fairer assessment on how somebody's done during a complete quarter or a complete year or whatever you're trying to measure there.
That's great, especially having a certain amount of features built in is big, especially, and we're seeing this trend further developing in HR tech as a lot of companies are looking to hopefully not have to have many different systems to do all things HR related when it comes to management at their organization, and want to have more of those features built into the same platform. So I imagine that's typically pretty beneficial as well also. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan. Thanks for being here and answering some of my questions and sharing that information with our audience. A couple questions for you before we go. The first one is, are there any resources that you would recommend for the audience where they can kind of go to learn more about anything we talked about today, or 15.5 or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. With 15.5, our website, 15five.com, is going to be probably the best resource for learning more about 15.5. There's demo materials, screenshots, background. Like I mentioned earlier, you can learn about the science behind 15.5. We also have a lot of great material out there, just about HR topics in general. If you're interested in our idea of becoming your best self, of kind of finding that inner passion, check out the materials on 15Five's best self topics. We've got webinars, we've got blogs, different even courses under our Best Self Academy. So that's great material in there as well.
Thank you for that. And last question I have for you is, who should reach out to you and how can they get in touch?
Yeah, so kind of two topics here. One is, if you're interested in checking out 15Five for your own company, feel free to reach out to me, or just jump onto our website there, and you can easily get in touch. Also, I run the partnerships program here. So if you feel that your company would be an ideal partner with 15Five, definitely reach out. And we work with people in a lot of different ways. We have referral partnerships, we have tech partnerships. And if you feel like you would want to recommend this product to other people, we can offer benefits there. So you're always welcome to get in touch with me. My email is dan.taylor@15five.com. And feel free to reach out. Even if I'm not the right person, I'll be happy to put you in touch with the right person and point you in the right direction.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dan. We'll link to all that stuff in the show notes. And thanks for being here and sharing your experience with myself and our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the People Analytics Podcast powered by Staffgeek. If you or anyone you know is a leader in human resources or talent acquisition and would be interested in being a guest on our show, please reach out to me at Sean@staffgeek.com. That's Sean, SEAN, at Staffgeek, STAFFGEEK.com. We would love to share your valuable knowledge with our audience. At this point, we'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsor of our show, Staffgeek. Staffgeek helps companies hire smarter by increasing retention and combating turnover, all while reducing time to hire. They do this by creating a customized behavioral assessment around your company's unique culture. Armed with your Fit Tech assessment, you're able to evaluate which candidates are the right fit for your company's culture. Start hiring smarter today with Staffgeek. If you'd like to learn more, reach out to Staffgeek at hello@staffgeek.com or visit them on the web at staffgeek.com.